Listen up, Gotham.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Buttons, it's me, Harley Quinn.
This is Batman.
This is Robin.
Tune into the Bat Fanatic podcast.
The Bat Fan Addict Podcast.
The Bat Fanatic Podcast.
The Bat Fanatic Podcast with Sammy Warmhands.
With Sammy Warmhands.
Bat Fan Addict Podcast. Bat Fan Addict Podcast.
Although, Sam, you might think about changing the name.
Hey everybody, it's the Dark Knight of Rap, Sammy Warmhands, and this is a very special episode of the Bat Fanatic Podcast. That's right, it is Bat Fanatic Friday, and we have lots of special guests here. We are going to talk first with our sponsor of the show on this season, that is Raremarq, formerly of Nerd Crawler, right? They are your source for online sketches and remarks, original art, straight from the source like Frank Cho and Art Germ and so many more. And you can get a $10 off code on your first purchase over $100 using our code BATFAN. Real easy. Sign up and use the code BATFAN and you get $10 off your first purchase on Raremarq. That's with a Q. You can look at his little name on the screen if you need the spelling. But yeah, check out Raremarq. And today we're going to be talking about all the different ways that we get our comics, all of our loot, you know. So welcome, guys. I have to shout out our friend from TNK Comics, the Nando Knight. Happy birthday, my friend. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sammy. Yeah. Today's been a busy day, but it's good. It's good.
Well, thanks for squeezing us in. He's going to hang out for just a few and then get off to his birthday celebrations. So I want to introduce my co-hosts. I've got Dunk from Albany, New York.
What up?
We've got Grumps from New York City.
Oh.
Punch in the face. And we got Gramps from Texas, the Dallas area.
Mm-hmm. Howdy.
Howdy, that's perfect. All right, so our other guests here today. So again, I mentioned Chris from Raremarq. We met at a couple conventions. Wanted to get you on representing the online kingdom. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, this is super exciting to hang out and chat with you guys all. Yeah, and I apologize if you hear any weird screaming. That's just my son in the background trying to play nicely with his sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got John from Radar Toys, my LCS here in Eugene, Oregon. John, how you doing?
Good. I'm good. How are you fellas doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming.
Chilling.
Good.
So John's representing the brick and mortar, and then Nando does all of his hand-to-hand at shows. You can go to cons and see this man working his ass off. Got the massive double booth set up. And yeah, so I wanted to get you guys on because we each kind of have our own ways of collecting, different things that we collect. And I think between the three of you, you kind of cover all the bases, right? I was thinking about like, man, all of our different sponsors on this show do something so unique but so connected. You know, you're all part of the community. Nando, since you have birthday plans going on, I first want to ask, when did you get started in this? Because I know it's a newer venture for you. And what was the inspiration to, you know, quit the 9-to-5 and start just going to shows and selling your own collection, right? That's what it started with, your personal collection?
Yeah. So TNK Comics has been around for officially about 2 years now. It started as an idea, actually thanks to Grumps. He's actually the one who donned the moniker for TNK and the Nando Knight. So we can give all gratitude there. Give him the, you know, kiss the ring when I know I'm supposed to. But TNK Comics came out of nothing. I mean, I have a 24 plus year career in management, corporate management, retail sales, where I've done nothing but customer service development and sales developments and everything like that. And I really had a really bad interaction with somebody close to me, going through somebody's collection and finding some good stuff and then saying, you know, hey, well, you know, my payment was I get to buy some stuff off of you. Finding that, you know, what I wanted to buy wasn't part of the stuff that I could buy, even though it was in the right section. And I was like, well, but I want that. And they were like, well, you can't buy that. And I was like, well, then I don't want anything. And then so I was like, I'm over it. So I came home and poured a nice heavy glass of Angel's Envy, and then all of a sudden had 2 or 3 of those, and jumped on my laptop and bought a LLC and started a business and said, I'm doing it.
Wow.
So after that, we did the side, basically making it the side job, while I was still working for a major toy company. And then I got tired of answering to everybody else. I got tired of how customer service first was being discarded, and it wasn't the focus anymore. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. And my drive sucked. Dave can tell you that. Dave made my drives not suck. I will tell you that. So there's that.
2 hours, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was multiple hours each way every day. So, and I just said, my kids are young. My kids are 7 and soon to be 6. So they're 18 months apart. So they're young. So if daddy messes up and goes away for a little while and doesn't do something great at work, it's okay right now. I have an amazing partner in my wife, Crystal, who we're celebrating 10 years married together this year. And, she is my rock. She lets me play comic book shop and do all these things. But, realistically, I started this as an idea that, what we do as a profession is customer service first. Nobody has to buy any of the stuff we're selling. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody needs a comic book. Nobody needs a toy. I mean, well, ask Grumps is maybe a different story, but that's okay.
I do too.
Yeah, right. But that's the idea is, right? We don't sell that. What we sell is the product, but what we're really selling is our personality, and our understanding to the people of, this is an escape. This is somewhere where people can feel free. Community is truly a sentiment in this industry that speaks higher volumes than in any other. And I think what we do is we provide that safe space, that cheers, that safe haven for collectors of all kinds, whether you're collecting original art, whether you're collecting action figures, whether you're collecting comic books, whether you're collecting omnibuses, or, everything. This is your safe place.
Man,
to
how
be.
much of that list is all different collections I have going right now?
It's okay. I think we all touch base a little bit.
No comment.
Yeah. But I mean, just an example, like we just got back from Phoenix Fan Fusion yesterday. So
Nice.
That was a great show. Fantastic show. I mean, that was the best show I think I've had since we've gone full time with this industry. I came home with more empty bins than I expected to, and I'm like, great. And then I'm like, but I need more books. So
Right.
That's the problem. But we've it's been officially 1 year that I left corporate America, and that we've been doing this. And my wife has not made me go back to work yet. So I'm counting as a win right now.
Congrats, man. That's awesome. And so for anybody that doesn't know, all of your shows or all of your sales for the most part, right? You do a little bit online on your short box, but most of what you do is you are loading up the van, heading down to any con. Like right now it's regional, right? Like Southwest is kind of where you've been able to be.
Yeah. Funny because Dave will be like, I got you. We've been contemplating, we met somebody to partner up and have a conversation with for CCE2 next year.
Cool.
So there is a potential that we go all the way out to Chicago next year, just because it's the same weekend as WonderCon, and 2 years in a row, WonderCon has fell flat for me.
Right.
So I'm like, 1 year it was a holiday weekend, bad weather. The next year it was you had Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee, good weather on a non-holiday weekend, and it still fell flat. Like, things don't make sense. So when they don't make dollars, they don't make sense. So it's, now it's time to find opportunities in other places. So, eastward expansion is my vision right now. So we're, who knows, maybe one day we'll see somewhere, maybe at Heroes or Mega, and if not, New York.
Cool. Well,
come by my collection.
Careful what you wish for, Grumps.
I got 60 long boxes, so let's go.
Oh my God.
Let's see what you got.
Yeah, but just like you were saying, Sammy, first of all, thanks for inviting me. I know I'm going to be a small window, so I don't want to take up too much time for you guys tonight. But we do about 20 to 24 shows a year, whether it's small grassroots to mega stuff, and honestly, this year will be my first vending at San Diego Comic-Con. So
that's awesome.
We've done grassroots shows to the Super Bowl. So, it's all about putting our brand in front of other people that can get anything. I mean, what I'm known for now, I guess, in our small circle of shop owners and stuff, I'm the death by 1,000 comics. My dollar bins are like famous, so I'm the nickel and diming you with a good dollar book section, and then then a nice big key goes off the wall every so often. So that I think it's important that we provide all three levels of cost, where somebody can come up and get $1 book, somebody can come in and get a $25, $50 book, someone get $100 book, someone get $1,000 book, so it's important that we have that availability and inclusivity for everyone, that you can come up to my booth at any point in time in the show and grab something.
Right. And you said something in the beginning that I want to circle back to, and that is community. And you were talking about the personal connection and sort of like the bad experiences you had, and you wanted to do it differently. And I think that what's crazy is this selection of people right now hanging out, because when I was kind of getting back into this, and I remember being at Radar for the first time, and I was walking around looking at all of the floppies, right, digging through the bins, and people coming up to me like, oh, hey, you read comics? And I was like, I've got like my little, I have my trade paperbacks on the shelf, but I didn't really know what I was doing, right? And now it's like I got friends all over the country doing this, and it's been amazing. And so that's part of why I wanted to get you guys together, is because I think we all represent sort of different types of collectors, different types of vendors. But ultimately, like, I go to Radar because, like, I hit it off with John. And when I come in, I get that, like, personal conversation every time. And you're the reason I started a poll. Like, I never had that before, right? And it was just from, like, every time I'd come in, he'd be like, oh, did you see this Harley Quinn variant? I'm like, give it to me.
Well, I think Nando kind of hit it, was kind of dancing around it real close with, like, we sell the experience is what we're down to. Like, you can buy the statue anywhere, you can buy the figure anywhere, you can find things, accessible all over the internet. But people come into the store for the experience. And when you're customer service focused and you make them feel welcome, like, we focus on, we'll learn your name, your kids' names, like, just make you part of the family as quick as possible, so that you're like, every time I go in there, I feel good. It's like Cheers. Everybody knows me. And then it becomes your local spot, like, real quick. And before you know it, you're like, dude, I'm heavily collecting comic books. And dude, that's how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, here's the first couple $1 books. Oh, here's like, see this Momoko variant. And then after that, it's a wrap. And then people are enjoying the hobby, and they stay in the shop heavy. And you're like, all right.
Yeah, and I think that in a different way, that's also what Dave and I connected on, because I was starting to go to more cons, but he was really going to more cons, and he would reach out and be like, hey, dude, I'm going to meet Sean Murphy this week. You want anything signed up? Like, oh my God, really? And so then, like, we start trading each other favors and stuff. And, like, Dave, you hit like every show, man, just whether you're working or attending, like, you're out there, miles in the aisles, like, that's your thing. And
I'm hooked.
Yeah.
I'm hooked.
But, like, you are out there. We've talked about this before, where, like, sorry if this is a little personal, but we've talked about, like, some imposter syndrome stuff, where you're like, how is it this amazing legendary artist is, like, excited to see me? Like, who gives a shit about me? It's like, but you've been building these relationships. You have, but you've been building these relationships. Every time you go to a con, you make that personal connection with the people that you're going to see, right? I mean, you learn what kind of snacks they like, or you learn, like, all the little human things that aren't just, like, talking about the industry, Peace, Nando. Happy birthday, man.
Peace, Nando. Happy birthday. Enjoy your evening, bro.
Thanks for coming.
But, right, Dave, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, it's more like similar to what you guys have to do, for your sales and stuff. It is an experience. Everything's an experience. I started off by going to a comic shop, and going to my local comic shop now. Like, my first friend in Albany was the comic shop owner's friend. He made an experience for me. He was like, "Oh, where are you from?" "Oh, New York. What comic shop did you go to? Have you been to Midtown?" And it's like those small conversations build that. And it started me going there, and then going to local comic conventions. And the biggest thing, honestly, when we went to New York, Grumps, I think it was like 2018, and we met up with Sean Murphy because he was just on the Bad Force podcast, and got a picture with him. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then I think we met Todd. I think Tom McFarlane and Greg Capullo were walking after that. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, I don't like this feeling. And especially after COVID, right? We had like everything shut down, and I lost that feeling for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then after COVID, especially, again, getting personal after my divorce, I was like, all right, I got to find something that brings me joy. And you go to conventions, and it's like, look at all these cool ass people. Everyone's part of a community trying to have a good time. Everyone is part of this experience. And it's addicting. That's why I go to my comic shops a lot. That's why I keep on checking out comic websites. Nando and I always talk about like what collections he's picking up. It's a lifestyle now, and it's because I enjoy it.
Now, Chris, go ahead, John.
I was gonna just jump in right quick. It's kind of crazy how accessible like the comics industry is.
Yeah.
Like there's this veil on all these other industries, actors, sports athletes, whatever. But you walk into a mid-level con and you look over, and if you're kind of in the know, you're like, dude, Greg Capullo's sitting right there.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy the first time you realize that you can just walk up to some of like the people you admire and they're just right there. Sometimes no line.
I know. And just to piggyback on that, I mean, social media has really made that accessibility a lot easier. And then, it's funny how, these conventions and social media have kind of made, it's almost like a golden era in meeting your heroes in a way,
Yeah.
I grew up in a part of the country where there were no conventions. I'd get my comics from a local grocery store if I had, 50 cents or $1 to buy one. Or
this is in the 1930s?
Yeah, in the 1930s when I had baseball cards still in my bicycle tires to make that sound, right?
Babe Ruth's car.
Exactly. Save up some lawnmower money. And I used to dream of meeting one of these artists. I mean, to me, they were like my heroes. And it wasn't until like, I don't know, I was probably in my 30s when I went to my first actual convention. And I met Norm Brayfogle.
Wow.
And I was like,
R.I.P.
you were like my, upper echelon of who I wanted to learn how to draw from when I was a kid. And he was just standing there like, I thought it'd be like, hero worship from everybody around him. But he was just standing there. He was just a normal guy. And it was just so cool. It was so cool. I was like, okay, now I need to start getting back into the comics. I need to get more books because I want to have something to go to the convention and get signed, but also start up and develop a relationship with some of these people. And it's kind of weird how that's happened over the years.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about that when I started working for Comic Sketch Art. Then it changed that, like, I would just find out who I was assigned to when I got there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's people I didn't know their work yet. Yeah. And then we meet in person and hit it off there. And then when I go home, I'm like, oh, man, I got to go through their catalog. And I want to read their books now. And because you've made that human connection as well.
Yeah. And then, like I was saying, with the social media, it's kind of connected all. Sometimes it's like, you have imposter syndrome where you're like, you know me? What?
Right.
And it's funny. It's funny when Dave has been down to the Dallas Fan Expo. I'll be honest, I don't travel really much to conventions. I just don't have the time to do it in my so busy lifestyle. But
Gramps is a celebrity, in case you guys don't know.
Exactly. No, I just got a lot of yard work to do. But Dave comes down to Dallas. We're walking through the aisles. Everybody knows Dave. And I'm like, I've lived here and I've gone to this local convention for years and everybody knows this guy. I was like, geez, man. But it was funny. It was awesome.
So side note, I got a weekend job working at an outdoor venue that hosts weddings. and I'm working there the other day, and as it's leading up to the start time for the ceremony, we're out there giving parking passes so nobody gets a ticket, right? We're just like, anybody who comes in wearing like fancy clothes, we're like, oh, hey, you know, let me get you one of these for your dash. And I walk up to this car, and the guy in the back seat goes, "Is that Sam?" I was like, yeah, and I can't see who it is. And he gets out, and I'm like, do I know this guy? What's going on? And he's like, oh, man, I'm a big fan of your music, man. This is really cool. I was like, oh, okay. Like, have we met before? Like, no, just on the internet. I'm like, oh, shit, you know. And, like, you never know when those things are going to happen. It's so random, you know.
You never miss an opportunity to bust out a rap, do you?
Yeah, no. But I want to talk to Chris at the end of this first segment, because you, in a way, kind of break down that barrier between artist and fan. So when we're talking about going to cons, we're talking about social media, you know, and I met you at conventions, but you had the interesting idea of like, look, a lot of these artists are doing cheap or free commissions or quick sketches, you know, for their customers, and then at lunchtime they're already on eBay, people are reselling them, whatever, and then people are trying to raise their prices, they're trying to figure out this game, and then you were like, you know, fuck that, just direct, you know, like I want the fans to interact directly with the person that made it, and that person gets the most for their work.
And so many things to echo back to like what Nando said about customer service and stuff. But so it started because we wanted to raise money. Steve Morgan wanted to raise money for the Lahaina fires in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. This is back in like 2023, right? Fires devastated Hawaii, right? And he would auction off artwork on his Facebook group, and you would email him a bid. And then he'd have to like take the email, go to Facebook, tell you the highest bid, and get back and forth about it. And he was doing like an Adam Hughes piece, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to win this, but I'm going to bid like whatever the current price is, because it was like $1,000 for like an Adam Hughes like 11 by 17, and I was like, I'm not going to win at 1,000. So I was like, I'll just put $1,001, and then in the bottom I was like, hey, what if I built you a better way to like auction this so you could raise more money for charity? And he was like, you are outbid and I would be interested. And I was like, tight. So I spec'd out like what it could look like, and in a week, I was like, I'm going to build this as fast as I can. And it doesn't look anything like what Raremarq looks now, but it was enough for us to get going. And then we were able to raise more money for charity. Yeah. Right. And then I think Brian Otley actually listed, it was an Invincible with Eve in the background. And I think it was a sketch cover that sold to a buyer abroad for like $3,000. And it was like, one, that buyer can never really get in contact with Ryan. Yeah. But he loved Invincible and Ryan. And Ryan got to raise money to give to charity, right? And I was like, well, this is interesting. And then Steve Morger is Frank Cho's art rep. And then Frank Cho, I got an email from Steve that just said introductions was the subject line. And it was Steve and Frank Cho. And Frank is my hero. Wow. Like, there's a photo of us on the website from 2007 where I was like in high school. And it was just like, Frank wants to buy a house and he has a really addictive like crystal meth habit. Would you be interested in talking with him? And I was like, yes. Whoa. And then it kind of just went from there of like, could we help Frank earn a little bit more to raise money to buy a house? And then bit by bit, it was like, yeah, right, all that, all his addictions. And then it was like, I remember distinct moments where we just got access to more creators. Like Artgerm signed up after Eric Chen did, which was one of his like students. Yeah. And when Artgerm signed up, I think it was like 10 p.m. Pacific time. And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I gotta go. And I like, just like immediately was like, I DM'd him, I emailed him, and I was just like, hey, can we get you set up? But yeah, that's all my way of
his whole team set up after that.
And then, and once you got Artgerm, like just the bricks, like it all just falls, right? Like Kunkka signs up, and then Educuri signs up and all that stuff. And yeah, it comes back to like, they just needed a way to get more of their art out there into the world, into the hands of like their fans. And yeah, we just built it. And on the topic of like imposter syndrome, it's really weird to like build this and get it to where it is now.
And now you're the like, guy for all of these people.
I mean, I don't know about that, but it's more like, I just think of it as like as a fan, where I'm like, oh, I get to like get dinner with Frank like at another show and like talk about, get his crazy stories, or like drinks with Ryan. And it's a really cool thing, but it goes back to, I think, what John said and what Nando said, which is like, none of this works without community and like customer service, right? Like I could build the best technology in the world, but like if I'm a shithead, sorry, I don't know if we can swear on this.
I think you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. Like if you're a jerk, like people don't want to work with jerks, right? And I think it comes through authenticity as much as possible. Like I've worked in tech for a while, and I've tried to make some products that like didn't really take off. And I think the reason why this one, now I quit my full-time job in October of last year, so now I'm doing this full time. And I think the reason why this one is the one that works is because like if you look behind me, like I just love it. Yeah. Like I love Gambit since I saw X-Men cartoons with my dad. You know, I have a Jim Lee sketch from a convention that he gave me back when I was in high school. Like it's, I think we all sit here because we have the passion for it, and that comes through so real. Yeah.
So speaking of Gambit, I have to interrupt here. I told my wife to drop in here at some point during the episode because we got this little guy today, and he is 5 weeks old, and we have gone back and forth on a name for this dude. The girl who we got him from, she had been calling him Remy. Speaking of Gambit, and we were thinking more like maybe between Peter Parker or Billy Batson. We want to go something heroic because I have Bruce Wayne already.
Why don't you just call him Gambit?
I mean,
yeah.
Gramps says, "Why don't we just call him Gambit?" I don't know. We just wanted to throw that to the panel because we've been discussing.
Because he looks like a trickster.
Yeah.
He looks like a trickster.
Or you can do a nice little cap and go Peter Parker.
Peter Parker. No, come on.
Yeah.
I did think it was funny that we could do the like J. Jonah Jameson when you're calling him like Parker. You know. Okay. All right. Take him back to the bedroom. Bye.
5 weeks though. That's like a tiny little guy.
Yeah, he's tiny. The last cat we got young at 5 months, and that was young, I thought. But yeah,
I'm just going to call him Gambit and force you to call him Gambit. So.
Hope it'll catch on.
Yeah, definitely Gambit.
Yeah, we're getting there. So anyway, sorry for the interruption, but I think that what you touched on is absolutely right, that the authenticity rings true. Like John, I know that, in fact, I was surprised. I thought maybe we'd get to see behind you your CGC gallery on the wall. But you've been
I'm pretty technologically not good. So when I got home, I went in the comic room. I turned the camera around, and everything's just glare from the light.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to have I got the worst background. I'm sitting in front of my liquor cabinet, so that's not the worst thing.
Best background.
But I got like 80 slabs in there on the wall. And that's fun.
Oh, nice.
But the authenticity thing you guys are talking about is super important, and it's interesting for me specifically, and Sam can maybe attest to this, but like Radar Toys, we have two stores, and they're full toy stores. So we sell everything from Playmobil, Lego, Melissa and Doug. Like the best analogy I ever heard was a guy came to the counter one day, and he just walked up and said, he's like, "How is this possible?" And I said, "Oh, well, what do you mean? You got to be more specific." And he said, I'm buying a Melissa and Doug toy for my kid and a Warhammer set in the same store. And I just kind of chuckled and was like, dude, that's what we do that. So, the authenticity part is like in my day to day when I'm in the store, like I get to sell a 5-year-old kid a dinosaur figure and watch their eyes light up and they go nuts because it's like their first T-Rex or whatever it is. And then also I get to maybe, tell someone about comics who's new and is digging the bins. And then, or sell a big key off the wall or whatever. So that authenticity of like loving what you do and being passionate about it, I always feel like it's a cheat code because I get to do it across all the spectrum of toys, from statues to figures to, selling a mom like some travel coloring books that will keep the kids, under control in the back seat. And it's just like that authenticity you can't find in the Target aisle or the Walmart aisle.
Right.
Like there's no parents are going to have, kids can't form like a lasting memory in the Target aisle, as much as when they're in an actual toy store where it's like that whole environment is for them. And it's just, I don't know, every day when I suit up, that's what I think about on the drive to work is like, making a difference in somebody's day to day and bringing some part of joy, whether it's a numerical back issue they need for a run that they find in the bin, or it's like, whatever that hot release is that week, or a little kid with dinosaur. Like that's the lane that we got left. And if you swim in that lane and do it well, like you get loyal customers one after another. And that's just magic.
Well, and to your point, I remember going to New Age Comics here in the 90s.
Old school.
Right. That was my neighborhood. And so when you're talking like Chris was mentioning, like old school Jim Lee, like his X-Men run was happening, and just like that era, the Brayfogle stuff, that Gramps talking about, like in that period from like 90 to 93 when I'm starting to get into it, like they were the shop. And there was a comic shop in the Gateway Mall, like it was kind of happening at that time, and then over the years it sort of dried up, and I grew up and kind of found other interests, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's people here who really give a shit again, and it was exciting enough. Like I remember walking in that store, we were driving back 126 highway from the coast, and I was like, oh, hey, let me stop at Radar on the way home, right? And as we pulled in there, I walk in, you guys had new in the box, the 3-foot animated series Batwing that I didn't even know existed. And I was just like, oh God, and like walk out to the car with this giant thing. Like, so I bought something.
Yeah, we go wild on that stuff, man.
I couldn't believe I found that in my own city.
Our sort of like aesthetic in the store is crazy. We got like a 10-foot Millennium Falcon in the ceiling, like life-size shit that we stuff in there. Like we really go hard on the wow factor. And if I had $1 for every time like a grown adult opened the door and then they just said, "What the fuck?"
And see that Iron Man.
I'm like that is the reaction that we're like, yeah, dude, like you just walked into like an interesting paradise of some kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
That should be your discount phrase. Like
you unlocked the magical phrase to save money today. Congratulations.
Well, there's a Star Wars store in Fort Worth called the Holocron. And if you walk in and say, "Hello there," like Bing Kenobi, they give you a discount at the.
Really?
That's super cool.
That's awesome.
So I'm always like, "Hello there, hello there."
You heard it here, folks.
That's wow.
Wow.
I never heard of that before. But you're right about the wow factor, because like I love when I travel to check out different comic shops.
Yes.
And it's like there's always like a statue or like a certain section that just captures your attention, and then you spend so much time there, and then I'm like, now I feel like I have to buy something because I've just been here for so long.
I've been digging through John's bins for the last hour. I better go to the counter with something.
I better find something.
Dude, I mean, like, listen, not for nothing, our bins are fire. So it's like I always laugh when we get the out-of-towners and they see the bins all lined up. We have a pretty sizable back issue section.
Yeah.
And they kind of like, comic book aficionados when they're traveling, they'll kind of disregard the bins because they figure they're picked over. They're like, oh, this is a comic spot, dude. These are going to be like basic, but we keep the bins healthy, and so that keeps them moving. And so usually they stop and they just kind of peek haphazardly with 1 or 2 fingers, and then they start pulling, and then they stop and they go all the way to A, and they start making the run around. And I start thinking to myself, oh, this dude's gonna blow $100 quick.
Yeah.
And then that's usually what happens. And I'm like, dude, I figured your bins were going to be, just desert. And like, they are not. And I'm like, yeah, we put the good stuff out and we keep it every day, just sticking good keys or, small keys out there, good, just things that we know people are going to love.
Right.
Because
I'm on your website right now and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, dude, Sam didn't, I didn't really get to give you guys the rundown, but I generally look this tired all the time, dude. Our online business is substantial. Yeah, our online business, like we're like 15 years old. So our online business is like, big. So we're talking like, probably $1 million plus in sales online. So we got a full team out there. That's always moving. The online business has been, the Wild West is over. So we kind of were lucky to get in early. And now it's just kind of eroding every year. But we run 5 stores. So we have 2 radars. We run 2 other traditional toy stores, and then also a toy and hobby shop. So like I'm spread thin all the time. My best part of my day every day now is 2 hours at Radar in the morning when I open, because that's like the purest form of like what I love to do. And then after that, it's just a shit show of putting out fires.
So
Wow.
it's very interesting what you two guys are doing, because you're dealing with the physical form of entertainment in a world where now, kids have accessibility to, every online game and the PlayStations and the Xbox and everything like that. But you're dealing in the physical format. How do you, one, stay competitive in that? And then where do you see the future of collecting going?
Yeah, I can start on my point of view. I think what like this conversation has touched on though is like there's magic that we really believe, which is like humans want to support other humans, right? And that when Sammy gets a chance to meet, Andy Kubert, for example, and is like, oh, like I want a Batman from this man. Like,
He's coming to Baltimore, and I just wrote it like, I want. Yeah.
Like, right? There's something to be said about like the magic of the characters that I love, and that's an IP, right? And I can get that IP in a video game. I can play Injustice. I can do whatever. But also the people who made the thing are special, and I want that connection with the person who made the thing. And so what we find at Raremarq is like, how do we just make that magic happen where the fan and the creator can connect over like this item, like whether it's like a piece of art, right, or a science, signed comics or books and prints and things like that. But when you can make that happen, it's like, one, it makes the fan and creator relationship just so incredible that they continue to come back. And my belief is like, yes, in a world where like things are more digital and more accessible, there's actually more fans being born where they're like, cool, I played that game or I watched that movie and now I want to like learn more. And oh my God, like this person just made this. Like I just got my son, he will this weekend get a Dustin Wynn like Spidey and His Amazing Friends piece that I got him, right? And it's like, for him, he's like, I love Spider-Man. Now he's like, oh, a person gets paid to do that. And like, that's so cool. And I want to meet that person. And I think if we just continue to foster those relationships, like, let's support the people who make these things. And you kind of get to like geek out about them and fanboy out about them, then I think the hobby continues to grow.
When you talked about like the pipeline, right, where the biggest exposure is often the film, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us had that, whether that film was Superman 78 or Batman 89 or whatever that movie was to you growing up, that got you really into it. And then, maybe you are at the grocery store and you see that spinner rack and you're like, whoa, Batman comic books, whatever. And however that went, I think a lot of us had that same sort of direction, and we find a book that appeals to us. We find a trade. We find some, Reddit recommendation that, oh my God, year one, you haven't read okay, and you read it and it just unlocks this thing, and it gradually grows as you find out, oh, there's a convention. Like, oh, it's only an hour away. Let's check it. And again, you see like, oh my God, there's this whole world that I didn't know existed from this movie I've watched 100 times, right?
Yeah. And I've seen it play out with my son, who like his first foray into this was like Spidey and His Amazing Friends. And I've seen it with my nephew, who is really into like, he went from Spidey to like Venom to then like now really loving like Deadpool and all these things. And like him and my sister, they sit and they look at Raremarq and see what pieces are. And she'll show him like, oh, this piece for Venom is like $300. And he's like, oh, someday.
Right.
Like, that'd be so cool, right? And I think, dude, that's like a lot of us, right? It's like, oh, someday. And then you get older and then you're ready to buy, right? Yeah.
Well, it's like, I'm just dying to jump in here because when I look at this question, because I've been in the trenches, 15 years behind the counter, I get to see the evolution from the beginning. So when you said like your son and Spidey and Amazing Friends, it's like, I've got kids who come into the shop and they discover Spider-Man. Maybe they saw the movies. They're young, 8, 9, 10, and they're all excited. They buy their first Spider-Man comic, and then like within the year, their parents are bringing them in regularly, and they'll come to the counter and be like, "Did you know there's more than one Spider-Man?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, buddy. Like, let's talk about it." And then they'll get jazzed up on whatever. And then fast forward a couple years, right? and now they're like collecting heavy, and they have a favorite Spider-Man. They're like, oh, Miles Morales, my favorite Spider-Man. What do you got? And I'm like, oh, here's the bin, here's this. There's a couple minor keys up there. And then you fast forward a couple years, and they're like, oh, I just went to Rose City. Now they're 14, 15. And they come back and they're like, dude, I just got a Randy Everlin sketch. Like, check this out. And you're like, dude, that's super cool. And then you fast forward even a couple more years, and they're like, hey, that new Hot Toys is coming out, and I'm going to need that. And you're like, all right. So I look at it as like levels, where people as collectors, they find their fandoms, they find their lane, and they start progressing, and eventually, like in your lane, they'll end up with like original art, because it's sort of like the creme de la creme, where it's like, if you love an artist or a writer or whatever it is, and you get something authentic from them, that's like the top of the mountaintop. So I get to see this, transition. There's this one kid, I'll tell a funny story. There's this one kid, he doesn't know it though. Like, I never told him, but the day we opened, 8 years ago, I think it was, for the first store, his mom came in and she was pregnant, like 9 months in a day, like super pregnant. And they came in for the grand opening, and it was like a couple days later, this kid was born. So he's the marker of how old the store is. So
you see him physically grow, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So I saw him as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. So it lets me know how fast time goes, because like just the other day, and not for nothing, this kid's cool. Like, some kids are, cool. They're just born cool, right? So this kid comes up to the counter, and now he can see over the counter because he's 8, and he looks right at me, and I'm like, what's up, buddy? And he's like, yo, you got Pokemon cards in the case. I'm gonna need those. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like, this kid has arrived, So, growing with your customers, seeing where they are in the world of collecting. That's why I feel pretty confident that the collecting thing is that lane's always going to be there. It just changes a little bit. How you acquire what you're trying to collect, how invested you are in the hobby. Are you attending conventions? Like, that might change a little bit here and there, but there's always another generation that's got, a mom or a dad or an uncle who will put them onto something. And then that's like, going to become like their thing.
Right. And I think you were right about levels, because,
it's dangerous.
As we're talking about this, this pipeline, I'll continue to call it, like, you can see, I got the original art over here, but kind of behind my head, Hot Toys. And what Chris said about someday, right? You see that one thing, and you're like, man, someday. For me, that was seeing someone had a Jack Nicholson Joker and a Michael Keaton Batman that were like the original Hot Toys figures, and I was like, holy shit, that is cool, right? And I had a few, like I had my like Mattel Dark Knight figures on the mantle in the living room. I had a few things, and I had never seen anything like it. And I was like, man, I gotta get one of those. And I looked at it, I'm like, 300, oh my God, like, clutching my pearls. I'm like, there's no fucking way, like, I'm a broke touring musician. And so that was my someday, like, someday, if I ever slowed down and stopped living out there out of my van on the road, I am going to make that happen. Right. And not only did I do that, but now to have, like, I have 6 display cases full of Hot Toys. And sometimes when, like, I'll just I'll go sit on my drum throne that's right between the two sides of display cases, and I'll just look at it like, how is this in my house? Like,
how did I get here?
If you look at my credit card debt, you'll understand how. But I mean, just like, still, you have that childlike moment of, once in a while, you'll just look at it and be like, wow, I did it. Like, that's cool. Like, I didn't do anything really, but just like that you made that little childhood dream come true for your adult self,
It's so funny too.
Yeah.
We're sitting here and we're just basking in our own glory like dudes. And then my wife will come behind me and be like,
Hey, mine will always say things like, that's not worth anything. She's like, you can say whatever you want, but until you put money in my hand, it's worth 0.
oh yeah.
And I was like, all right, true. That's true.
Yeah. No, but like as Nana was talking about, just like having a supportive partner, though, I think is a big part of this too, right? Like, I can do this full time, knowing that my wife is I mean, literally right now, she's with screaming children while I'm on this podcast, right? It's like, it's incredibly helpful. And she was actually the one. So that Sideshow Collectibles Gambit that's right there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, you know, I mean, grew up in like an immigrant family. They worked really hard. Like we didn't have a whole lot. And I remember getting my paychecks and we were getting older and I was like, ooh, like, I think it was like $700 on Sideshow. But like I signed up for the wait list.
Yeah.
I sent the email. They had the like exclusive still in stock. And I was like, can I do this? And she was just like, you're going to talk about it for like 10 years if you don't. Because I literally missed the other one in college. Because in college, they had one that was like $400, but I couldn't afford it. And I think, you know, I think that someday is such an important thing about this hobby. And also just like, as people, it's like dreams matter, right? Like it gets us out of bed. Keeps us going. Dunk, you were talking about like you just needed to do something, right? That like kind of like brought some joy in your life. And I think it's pretty cool that we all get to work and do things that like make us happy, and then by extension also can help other people find happiness too. So it's
and I think
I love it. Yeah,
that's major because I mean, if we are to pivot a slight amount and talk about like mental health, right? I think a lot of us we need something good to look forward to. The world is crazy, and you know, like let's face it, we're all getting older, and you know, things maybe aren't always what we expected. And for me, it could just be knowing that, like, okay, I'm going through a rough patch, but I know that next summer I'm going to see Michael Keaton in the bat suit again, and I just have to let that be enough today, you know, or like I know that I'm gonna get to go to MegaCon and that I finally get to meet Lieber Mayo or something like that. Like I just have to have that one little thing to look forward to.
I often wonder, Sam, if New Comic Day is Wednesday, I'm like, did they plan it like that? Because like if the work week is Monday to Friday, you're like, dude, now I have something in the middle to look forward to. No matter how shit things go, I'm going to New Comic Day to check out the rack.
Yes.
So I often wondered if it was just a publication, like the way it's synced up, or somebody somewhere intentionally was like, yo, it should be Wednesday because it will break up the work week's monotony.
I think it's
certainly
true. I think it's true because record stores had new release days on Tuesdays for years.
Yeah.
And I forget who it was. It was some major artist. It was like Beyonce or Eminem or something like that. Just dropped a thing on a Friday, and then the whole industry just like followed and they moved it. But in talking with record store owners, that Tuesday was key because that was a bad business day in general, right? You know, Friday is going to work anyway. People are, you know, they get off at the end of the week. They want to, you know, spend some of that new paycheck, right? That's just going to happen. He said, but having that little bump on Tuesdays was everything for keeping those physical stores alive. And I know there was some pushback when they changed it to Fridays. Like, dude, like we're already going to have a decent Friday. We know that. Like, give us that midweek bump.
I love that New Comics Day is Wednesday, and I know the release dates changed when the different publishers went to different distributors or whatever.
Sure,
but we still rock it as Wednesday at the shop because it's like, wow, right in the middle of the week. Like Monday, you're probably dragging. Tuesday, your boss is yelling, and by Wednesday, you're at the New Comics trough. And how bad could the rest of the week be? You know what I'm saying?
I was at my shop today. I'm already tired.
Grumps, I wanted to ask you because you mentioned how many long boxes did you say you have?
I have over 60.
Oh my God, dude, that's so crazy. And then in recent years, especially, I know you've gone really all in on figures, right? Like that's been more your focus.
I mean, it's, you know, just for the longest time it was both.
Yeah.
You know, then when the pandemic hit, then I stopped going every week. That was really what, I was a Wednesday warrior for, gosh, since I was like 13, 14 years old, you know, up until 45. So, you know, you do that mathematics and you would have sank my life.
15 years. I think it was 15 years.
Dude, I can't imagine having a comic habit and a figure habit at the same time. I just can't fathom it, you know?
Dude, it's, man. That's
Like
why I don't
like,
go on
multiple
vacation.
franchises too, not just
Nah, not
not
just
just
one.
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Just,
but like these two guys, Grumps and Gramps, have their own figure podcast spinoff as well, where that's what they talk about. But like, I guess I just wanted to kind of hammer down that idea of like, you know, when we're going through whatever we're going through, having those little things that might seem inconsequential to anybody else who's like not in this fandom, you know, like that's something that keeps you going, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, like John was saying, like that Wednesday. I remember when it was Thursday. It used to be Thursday back in the late '80s. But yeah, that Wednesday was everything to me. I wouldn't miss it. Like I would. I mean, I work 9 to 5, so I would go after work. When knew I couldn't go after work, I would hit up the shop in the morning, first thing 8 o'clock, and then walk over to work. And this whole conversation is super interesting because I sit as a longtime collector, like really on the other side of you guys. I have great respect for the creators and everything, but I have no interest in like really befriending them or chasing them around or whatever.
But you've done
I,
that too in the past,
I,
right?
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love my Batman. I love my superheroes, and that's like for me where it kind of ends now. That's where I'm at now, anyway. Um, and that's not, taste change and habits change and whatever. That's where I'm at right now. I
Well,
do
and
more digital, books because it's convenient to me. I don't have the time to. I'm a single dad. I don't have time to run over to the shop, and I don't want to. My life just changed, So I just
I'm kind of
what's up?
Grumps. I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of with you on that, Grumps. Where it's like, I don't attend a lot of conventions, or kind of chase autographs, or
Yeah,
I just enjoy I just enjoy what I enjoy. And if I just happen to be at one and I see some, creator that I kind of love, that's cool enough just to see them. I
yeah,
don't really pay to get in line and get autographs, and it's
yeah,
such a huge part of the fandom and the collecting for other people. It's just never been
yeah,
that way for me. Like, I support by my dollar. I
yeah,
support
yeah,
by buying the things that I love from those creators. But I don't know if it's just my nature to not stand in those lines and want to press the
yeah,
flesh and get the autograph. And I don't know. I'm content with just the material.
Well,
yeah.
I want
And
to
that's
make
not, it's
sure
not to
that
disrespect the creators at all. It's just,
Yeah, not at
and
all.
if that's your thing, that's cool. It's really cool. I come from a place like where I remember the OG conventions in little, bingo halls and churches, and these guys were sitting right there. I don't want to say the big names, but a lot of creators, they would be just sitting at a table, and you just would walk up, and they would sign a book and whatever. Now you got to make a line, and you gotta, whatever, you gotta pay a fee or whatever. But it's become a whole business, and whatever. You John, you own a shop, so like when I was younger, teenager collecting, like the shops had all the books, like numbered, blah blah blah. Now the business is so there's different runs, there's different volumes. The Flash or Detective or Amazing Spider-Man have been interrupted 3, 4, 5 times, started over, and blah blah blah. So it's when I go dig into bins and I'm like, oh, there's number 5 of the Flash. Oh, which fucking volume is this?
right.
You
Well,
know
that
what?
that begs the question, like,
This is
of
this.
of the
I'm the old guy, so I'm like, you know what?
hey, of the group here, how many of you guys have Key Collector on your phone?
I don't.
I mean,
I think I do. Yeah, yeah. I'm not super active, but I do. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's there. It's there for that purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have to have it so I can pull a book out, and it's
Yeah.
Flash 23. Which
Yeah.
series? Which volume? Because like things have moved so much farther forward that it's collecting is messy like that.
Yeah,
So
it's
you got to have
confusing.
a
Yeah.
resource. You got to have a resource to freaking look at. Because Grumps is right. You can't just remember when we used to be able to just memorize covers.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
can't
Like
now.
Yeah.
Well, and
yeah,
No.
I'm
now it's
that way
like
with Letterboxd because I'm also a big movie collector, and
Yeah.
so I'm sub to some titles, right, that I'll read every week, but a lot of times I like those absolute editions, or I like the omnibus, I like the big hardcovers, right. But when it comes to movies, I have to have it logged so I know whether or not I already bought this movie in this format, right? Because I've been like trying, at first it was VHS, then it was DVD, then it was Blu-ray, and now it's 4K. And so I've been gradually like upgrading to the best version of whatever's out there. And I have to have it on my phone because like, oh man, I know I've bought this movie before because I love it, it's one of my favorites or whatever. But then I'm like, which version do I currently have? Like, because this is a good deal.
Definitely own 2 copies of Logan on Blu-ray.
Right.
Because
Okay.
I did not realize I already bought it.
Yeah, it happens.
And you're like, okay, well, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that I like about this group, including Nando, is that, like, again, it just represents so many different ways that I personally, as a fan and consumer, like to spend my time. I spend
Yeah.
a lot of time online just looking. I might have $5 in my bank account, but I just want to know what's coming, what people are working on, what's happening, right? And again, kind of give you that something to look forward to. And when I go to a con, I'm mostly there like I know I got X amount of money in my pocket to meet however many creators I can because I'm trying to fill up this sketch wall over here, right? But I've also found, deals on figures, or I've found rare books or whatever. Or sometimes I'll see an artist and I'm like, oh, I didn't know he was going to be here. I'm like, I don't have any books for him, right? And then you'll be walking around the con floor and a guy like Nando will have a display up that's like, oh, hey, this is, just like to throw out a name, like here's like John Byrne, or whoever's like featured at that thing. They'll have something up there, like a bin that says, oh, yeah, get your Ryan Otley books signed. And I'll be like, oh, shit, cool. And so I can dig through that bin that they brought specifically for this. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Now I can run back over there and get my Capullo signature, whoever you didn't know was going to be there, So I like going to the shops, seeing what new back issues they got, seeing what's new variants on the shelf or whatever. I like going to cons and just, if you got an extra hour, dig through those bins. And I can't tell you how many hours I spend, probably every night, if I admit it, probably every night, looking online just to like what sketch opportunities are there, what cons are coming up, what new titles do I need to call John and add to my, poll, like all those type of things. And so I don't know. I wanted, to highlight Grumps there for a minute because I know that you've been in it a long time and your preferences have changed over time,
Yeah.
right? But we all kind of, I think, have these overlaps of like the physical store, the physical con, the online marketplace. We all have a little bit of comic collection, a little bit of art collection, a little bit of toy collection. Like, I think it's
I just want to
something
say
we
too,
all
I love,
agree.
I love having my friends with different interests. Like, I go to Dunk if I'm looking for a book or a cover. Or basically, it's covers now. It's kind of, in my opinion, transition to just covers. Like, dude, I need
yeah,
this cover. Do you know where I can get it or whatever special? He's my information guy. For certain things. So yeah, I mean,
dude,
yeah, it's good to have
I feel
friends with varied interests.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I feel bad because I have so much to say. Like what you said about dude, cover collecting is like, man, it is just the thing.
Yeah,
I
I
love.
used to know all
I've
the
always,
covers.
yeah, I've always loved cover collecting, anyways. But like, it's getting hot. It's getting real hot. Where it's like, even more so than like first appearances, minor keys. People are chasing covers like crazy, and that's awesome. It makes the artists rock stars, you know.
I miss
Are
when
we
they
in
used to
the
tell
new
stories
variant
though with the
era?
covers, you know, like that's what I really
Yeah,
miss. Now
dude,
it's
it's
kind of
Yeah.
different.
it's an exciting part of new comics right now, and I think
Yeah,
it's super good. You know, I can't get enough of it. People might complain, oh, every issue's got 4 covers. Who cares? Now
yeah,
it's all about like, you know,
Pick the one you like.
it's not. Did you get the book? It's, you know, which cover did you get?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
did you land on
yeah.
the it? You know, this quote unquote it one, which is just cool.
Like I've shied away from buying floppies. I'm into trades now. I took a page from Gramps. Just I want to read as much as possible at once. It's kind of like when Netflix releases a whole series.
Yes.
I'm like, cool. I could binge this on Saturday. Set. I just want to get through it and like, all right, done. What's next?
Yeah, I got to be
But
really into it to do the monthly drop, because you do have that sort of like, you know, when a show that used to drop weekly, like an HBO show that still does that format, you're like, what the fuck happened last week? You know, and like you can watch the little recap and you can kind of refresh your memory, but it doesn't have the tension that the cliffhanger at the end of the issue had, and then you
Yeah.
jump right in. You know, like that's the benefit of reading the trade. But there are some that I just have to have that new Jim Lee. I just have to have, you know, like
yeah,
that new Fabok, whatever that thing is that I don't want to get spoiled for me on the internet this week. You know, like I just I have to
true.
check it out, and so I do like checking them out that way. And then if I really like it, then I'm gonna get the biggest, burliest format available when it comes out later, you know, and it'll maintain its place on my shelf.
You and your
When
absolutes.
I was
Dude.
younger, I would I would get a stack of books. I would live in New York, so I'd be on the train, you know, with my books like this or whatever. Now I'm old and grumpy and I fucking can't. I don't want to carry it. I don't want to carry 3 comics. Like,
You
you know,
got to
and
get
then
your
now you
Jim
don't want
Lee
to
hex
like,
bag.
yeah, you know, you don't want to fucking mess up the cover or whatever. So yeah, I mean, digital kind of works for me now. I get to take my
And
collection everywhere.
for sure.
Um,
So in 2013, I was working at Comicsology.
Oh,
And
cool.
so
okay.
so like another life, like a decade ago, right? And I remember getting the job and working there and being like, I want to work in comics and this job will pay me and that sounds good. But like, I'll never buy digital. I was like literally on principle, I was like, I want to hold the physical copies,
Yeah.
right? And I want them in my collection, right? And then as I started working there though, and I hear stories of like a kid, his local comic shop's 2 hours away, or a person had an accident and they're in the hospital and they can't make it to the shop. And I was like, oh, I guess like that's kind of what digital's for, but I'm still mobile, so it's fine. Like whatever, right? And then now with my own kids and my own collection that's starting to like, my wife is like, it has to stay in your office. And I just started finally reading Berserk. So like the
Oh,
Japanese
God.
manga
So
Berserk,
it's like
Yeah,
a million volumes.
which is like 1 million, right? And it's huge. And then with my son, when he was born, I was reading Naruto. And I was like, this is why digital exists. Because like I literally could not have it.
Yeah.
And then
A library wall.
Yeah, I
right?
need a
You're just
storage
like-
unit.
yeah, and like, I bought the first 10 copies of Berserk on Amazon Kindle and read it, and then I was like, "What?" I like Alicia, my wife. I was like, "I think I gotta finish this," and she's like, "Yeah, buy whatever." And I was reading at 10 p.m. and the next day she woke up, she's like, "I just got a credit card alert that you spent like $290 on Amazon," and I was like, "Yeah, that's how much the whole volume cost." I apologize, but I told you. And she's like, "Damn, all right," but but you're like. One, monetarily, yes, it's large,
Yeah.
but also like physically, it's just massive, and like you just start to run out of space, right? And
I mean, Dunk has seen my garage.
right?
Dunk has been in the garage.
Yes, I
So,
have.
right?
am I,
Yeah,
you know,
Spend
I'm
the
not
miles in
bullshit.
those aisles.
Yeah.
I literally
So-
have a storage unit in my backyard that I bought those like Home Depot racks that are like floor to ceiling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're just my Hot Toys boxes. It's just like there is no room in this little ass house for all the shit. Like
Yeah.
if you look over Gramps' shoulder there, you can see a lot of his boxes. But
Grumps,
it's a problem.
Grubs, I'm so curious about your collection because, like, so I started kind of getting into like figures also, and joined some of these Facebook groups. And like one of my some days, there was this guy. I don't know where he lives, but he showed his basement, and it was like a store. Like it literally was just like a massive collection of like every Fantastic Four item he could ever find or something. And I was like, man, someday.
Yeah. I mean, again, Donk has
Dude.
been there, so he can speak to it.
I,
A
Yeah,
lot
my
I mean,
jaw
I,
dropped at first.
yeah, I could tell you guys stories. We buy collections a lot. You know, comic book. I mean, I've seen it all, dude. I've
Yeah.
seen 3-car garages. Like I've seen super, you know, well off people with, you know, 60 plus long boxes. I mean, I've seen, yeah, it's crazy when you run across those stashes and someone's like, yeah, they invite you in, they want to sell either some or all, and your mind is just blown. It's just blown. And you know, when we talk about the conventions and stuff, and meeting artists and writers and stuff, a lot of these old timers that we buy collections from over the years that I've met, they tell the craziest stories. I mean, they tell, because they went to conventions when, you know, like Grump said, you could just walk right up. You know, they're like, dude, you know, Stan Lee's just sitting there drinking coffee, and you just, you know, it's 1977,
Right there.
and I just walked up and said, hey, can you draw me a Donald Duck? And he's like, yeah, sure. And you're like, dude, these stories are nuts. And so, you know, whenever I get anyone that's on the older side, I'm always prying their brains for the stories. You know, tell me what you love about comics. Tell me how you got into it. You know, and they'll tell you everything, where they were, who they met back when it was really accessible and easy, and you know, there wasn't the lines and like all that stuff. It's just fascinating. Like, oh man. And then of course you see the 100 long boxes or whatever, and you're like, oh my God. Like I've had to walk away from collections we just couldn't afford to buy. Even at pennies on the dollar, if you do the math, those are racks on racks on racks, and the store can't afford it. And usually I'll just tell them like, hey man, like we're going to have to find multiple buyers here, because nobody can really afford to buy all of this like at one time. And so, yeah, I've definitely seen some crazy stuff. Hey, Sam, you got any specific questions for me? I'm out of time, so I got just a little bit left. So
yeah, we're over an hour now, so I just wanted to wrap it up. See if there's anything else that you guys wanted to add. I had no agenda today, other than I thought we all come from different sides, but we all have a lot of overlap, and it'd be fun just to hang out. So we do.
It's really cool. It's really cool. It's really cool to see this entire ecosystem, like kind of food chain of like, you know, what we love and, you know, what provides jobs. Like it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, if there anything else you guys want to shout out or, you know,
I'm just browsing on Raremarq right now, and I'm just blown away. So,
I want a Guinness too, John. Let me get a Guinness.
I know. Look, it's hitting the spot today. I will say one thing though. I'm definitely a little jealous of Donk and Grumps and Chris. I'm a little jealous because when I see the other lanes that people are in, like the actual physical retail brick and mortar side, you know, dude, it's long, it's hard. You know, I like traveling to conventions and having exciting times. Man, that's gotta be great. But I'm like, you know, when you run a shop, you kind of ball and chain, you know, to the desk.
Yeah,
so
but then
like
you'll be tired of the travel too if you're doing it the other way. So you know, it's a give and take.
Yeah, I really can't. You know, my wife would say like I don't travel well. So she'd probably be like, "Who are you kidding?" Like, you know. But it is cool to see those lanes, especially with like Raremarq. I'm gonna check that out. Because
what I'll tell you, John, is like you're living like my dream. Like when there's like like I talked to my wife, like, what do you want to do? And like she has like a boring, like she's like an office job as her day job, but she went to culinary school. And I was like, the dream would be like you own like the food part, and we'd make all like high end versions of the food that we love, like a high end Pop-Tart or a high end like Mountain Dew Code Red or whatever. And then I would have like a comic shop where you could like sit and like play like N64 and like find new comics. And I was like, man, that'd be the dream. So John, no, huge respect to you and building this business. And you know, you talked about fandom too, and like moving along with it. Like I think a huge testament to you is like, and I was looking at your site also. It's like you're not like rigid. right? It's like, let me just get the things that kids and adults and whoever love, bring them into my store so they can find all kinds of toys and collectibles that they would want. And I think it's just about adapting too, right? And so huge testament to you.
And I think that we will see eventually, since Nando's not here, I think we will see a TNK brick and mortar someday as well.
Cool.
You know, and I know that, you know, even people in this crew have aspirations to maybe pop up their own conventions and things like, you know, this team we put together today is building shit. Like, not fucking around.
I was going to say, I think that's true what you said about, you know, in the physical retail side of things, if you just pay attention to your customers, they'll tell you what to sell. You know, every time someone comes in and asks for something we don't have, and I kind of prod them as to why it's cool and what excites them, that's like the most critical information. And it's like, all right, cool. Like apparently we need some more, you know, Conan stuff in the shop because, you know, people are asking for it, and that kind of guides you. It's not really that hard. You just gotta be receptive, you know.
For sure. Yeah. I know we're wrapping up.
I'm sorry. The story, John, that you told about the kid was really like interesting to me because I remember going to my shop at 13, 14, 15, and it was the old guy and his wife. And it was Comic Book Heaven, which is no longer there. But I'm talking like 88, you know. And, you know, like going from a teenager to an adult and then, you know, having my daughter in 2015 and he was, you know, winding down. He was already in his 70s and stuff like that. And his wife had passed. And, you know, how, like, what a huge part of my life that guy was, Jerry. You know, not a fancy shop, just comics, couple figures on the wall, and you know, all the stories he would tell and stuff like that. So it's like you're part of that kid's life, you know, as that kid, you know, goes into his teens and 20s and whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's really weird when it's like I spent like 8 or 9 years working at Toys R Us when I was young, and you know, everyone wants to be a Toys R Us kid. And so, you know, when we opened Radar, I never stopped to think that there'd be like Radar kids, you know. It didn't even occur to me that there's going to be kids that grow up in our store.
Yeah.
And now that we're, you know, 8 years down the road, there are these kids that have grown up there and they're Radar kids, and it's like, it just blows my mind. It's like the imposter syndrome you talk about. Like sometimes I get home and lay my head on the pillow at night, and I'm just like, how did we get here? Like, hard.
Sometimes you have a, you know, Radar middle-aged man like Sam.
Yeah, we collect a lot of those. Yeah, we collect a lot of those too. You know, that's the bread and butter right there. Is disposable income. You know, wants to find the stuff that they love. So.
All right. Well, on that note, that is our show. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, however you're taking this in. We do like doing these Bat Fanatic Fridays where we just hang out and talk about some of our favorite things. And it was so fun to have this sort of exercise in community because, after all, that's how I met all of you guys to begin with, is our own little connections through this community. So I'm glad to be introducing a few folks today and just having a good conversation. Happy birthday, Nando. And thank you guys. If you like the podcast, of course, give us the 5-star on your audio app or like us, comment on the YouTube. And check out our current sponsor, Raremarq.com, for all your original art. And peace.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Later.